Welcome everybody to the next episode in our Make Ideas Happen webinar series. My name is Katrina and I join you from the Enterprise Support Team here at Oxford Brookes, where we take passion into action and support people to make their ideas happen. And I'm also delighted to be joined today by Cathy, hello, who is of the Bespoke brand designer. And she's going to be talking to us about the importance of a strong brand identity to achieve this. I have just a few housekeeping tips for you all. We are recording this webinar, and throughout the webinar, if you have any questions or thoughts, then please feel free to pop any questions in the Q&A feature that we have, and we will try to answer those as best as we can. And then any thoughts, just pop them in the chat, and we have that feature that we can talk to everybody via. As well as that, we are also streaming live on our Enterprise Support Facebook, so you can join in via Facebook as well, and please do give that a like and a share. So that's everything from me. Cathy, over to you.
Hello everyone, I hope everyone is well, bearing in mind that it's a very strange situation at the moment, but we are easing out of it. So hence we're all online, and here I am. My name is Cathy Allenby. I am the Bespoke brand designer, and I'm here to give you some information on brand identity, how to create a strong brand identity and why it's important to have a strong brand identity. So a little bit about me. I am the Bespoke brand designer. I set up my business about 3 years ago, but I have been a brand designer for about 15 years. I've done all sorts of different things throughout my career. I've worked in marketing, graphic design, and this all led on to the Bespoke brand designer, which I said has been running for about 3 years. I work with businesses across the UK and throughout the US as well, and they're ranging from business startups very often to businesses who are looking to rebrand. So I deal a great deal with independent businesses who have perhaps been around for a good couple of years. They've figured a lot of stuff out, they've gone through all their teething problems, and now they want to really invest in a strong brand identity that's going to give back for them. I also do brand consultations, and I deliver masterclass which is probably going to change a little bit now because they're going to go online. Up until now, I've gone to some beautiful venues and held days where we've all been able to collaborate and talk and work through things in small groups, which has been great. And I also do quite a bit of public speaking as well at events, and I host panel talks. So that's where I am with that. And my great philosophy, my strong philosophy, is that a brand is more than just a logo. It's not just about the visuals, it is a package. It's about all kinds of different elements that need to be thought through very, very carefully when you're creating a brand identity for your business, because as far as I'm concerned, you should be making your brand identity an experience for your clients. So that means igniting all of their senses. It's not just about what they see, but it's about what they hear, and it's about what they feel as well. So from your stationery, from your business cards, which should have an impact. You should feel really proud of your brand identity, and you should absolutely love it. If you love it, then you're going to feel more passionate about it. And if you do it right and you really thoroughly research your business, your audience and your market, then you can create a really good, strong brand identity that is going to resonate with the right audience for you. So many businesses don't think through their brand identity and end up with something that actually doesn't match their business values, and it doesn't represent their business very well. And I feel very strongly and passionately that it should represent your business really, really well. So there's no guesswork. Customers feel like they've come to exactly the right place for the service or if you're in retail, for the item that they want to buy. So that's what I'm here for, and that's what I'm going to try and talk to you about today. So let's make a start with what is a brand identity? So the obvious part to a brand identity is the visual part. And we all know roughly about logos. The things that go into a logo are things like the icon. To make up the logo, you need the right choice of font. You also need to be looking at colours, any patterns that you want to add in there that match really beautifully and help to enhance your logo. Also textures and imagery. I will be talking a little bit more about imagery as we go along, but in actual fact, imagery within your brand identity is hugely, hugely important. Without any of us realizing, when we come into contact with a brand identity or with images, our subconscious very quickly makes some decisions as to whether or not we feel like we're attracted to that, to the colours, to the fonts, and whether it fits in with us. And imagery actually gives so many different messages to your audience. So it's not only about the content of the image, i.e. If, for example, you're a massage therapist, obviously you want to be conveying what you do to your clients, so you want some very high resolution imagery. Always use very high resolution. That's hugely, hugely important, because it's things like that that represent the service that you're giving. If you use low quality imagery, low quality pictures that are pixelated, that really is representing the kind of service that you offer and the attention to detail that you offer as well. So all of these things really come together and are very, very important. They also create the tone of your brand identity as well, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. But anyway, so those are the visual parts. But the other parts, which perhaps a lot of people don't talk too much about, are the story, your story. That makes up part of your brand identity. So things like where you've come from, how you started, who's involved in the business. In this day and age, we have a very, very short space of time to grab people's attention. And because the world is becoming, or businesses online are becoming quite competitive, we have to engage with our audience. Our audiences want us to engage with them, and they want to feel like they know a bit about your business. So giving them the backstory on where you started, who you are, who makes up your team, actually helps for you to communicate with your audience and for them to feel like they know your business quite well. The more they know your business, the more trust they'll put in your business. And that's what you're trying to build. You're trying to build a rapport with your audience. So it's also important, going down to the next element, is thinking about what your business stands for. So your values. So for instance, your values could be that you have very strong beliefs on sustainability and the environment. that forms part of the values of your business. It could be animal cruelty and the welfare of animals. That, again, is one of the values of your business. So you need to think long and hard about what those values are, because then that in turn goes together with the message that you're trying to give out to your audience. Having a really clear message means there's no guesswork. As soon as they arrive at your brand identity, if your message is clear and it's strong, then they'll know exactly what you're all about and what it is that you're offering. So some of the ways that we use our brand identity across our marketing are things like our website. Your website is hugely, hugely important. It's your 24-hour a day, 7 days a week shop window to your business. So it should be working really hard for you. People can go there and get an experience from you anytime they want. So making sure your website is easy to navigate, has really clear messaging on it, is vital for your success. And then another way that you use your brand identity, of course, is in your stationery. I'm a huge fan of stationery, and that goes from your business cards right through to your invoicing, to your brochures. I mean, the list is endless, really, when it comes to stationery. Another thing to mention is packaging as well. The labels that you use if you're in retail, all of those things fit together. And then, of course, your social media. Well, we all know how important being online and how we represent ourselves nowadays online is, particularly in this day and age when, online social media is so strong. It's given a lot of businesses a platform to be able to communicate with their audiences really clearly. And at the end of the day, social media is free. So we should be utilising it absolutely as much as we can and creating a consistent message across all of these different elements of putting your brand identity out there. To give you an idea, so just go back, the visual part of what I was just talking about. Let's just go back to that and have a look at that for a second, because we'll be dealing with a few other bits as we go along. But the visual part is the first thing I want to look at. This is an idea of a brand identity board. So when I talk about your logo, I'm referring obviously to the bit on the left hand side that you can see, which is the logo together with the tagline that describes exactly what this business is all about: skin rejuvenation and aesthetics clinic. And within that, we've got the icon, we've got the fonts, and we've got the tagline. To the right hand side, you can see at the top, when I put together a brand identity, I create a colour palette which forms the basis for all of the marketing that you're then going to put out there. So every single time you are making a change on your website, that you are creating a new social media post, you would go back to your colour palette, which we'll talk about how to create a really good colour palette a bit later. You would go back and make sure that everything that you do has those colours within it, so that you're staying consistent. Same with the font choices there. Choose 2 or 3 fonts that you can use across the board in everything that you do, so that they stay the same, so that people can easily recognise that they've arrived at your brand because it's consistent. It doesn't keep changing all the time. An icon submark, which you can see there, that one I created. I don't know if you can see within it, but it has has some meaning to it. So there's the D and the C for Dr. Claudia in there, and I sort of created that and did a design as an icon for her to then use. An icon and a submark is really good to use on its own over imagery when you don't want to use the whole of your logo. It's just a little brand mark, and it represents your business without having to use the whole thing. And then again at the bottom, the good thing with those images, if you can see, is that they're very clear, they're high resolution, and they create the right tone for her business. We'll go back to this at the end and you'll see what I mean. So, why is a fabulous brand identity important? Well, having a clear, at the very beginning when you start your business, often it's really difficult to figure out quite a few of the things that make up your business, because you have to, sometimes for some people, you have to run your business for a little while to figure some things out. I mean, often you have a good idea at the beginning and you must always search through your brand identity and try and figure out who you are as a business. But often that changes, and that's okay, because you will evolve as you go along. Your business, if it's successful, will always be evolving as you go along. So it's always important to, I say at least once a year, go back to the foundations of your business, which is right there at the top of that list, and look at who you are as a business, what your values are, make sure they're the same, and that will help you keep on track. Why is fabulous brand identity important? Often it's a client's first encounter with you. First impressions count. I don't care what other people say, they do count. So it's important that that first encounter is a positive one, is a good one. It's a visual representation of your business, its values and beliefs, and it helps you engage with your audience, which is what I was saying earlier. And being clear about things like taglines, and being clear and obvious about what it is that you do is a huge part of that. So the wording is something that you need to, your tone of voice is something you need to focus on and make sure is good and is strong. Your brand identity evokes feelings and emotions. It's all in the subconscious. Often we don't know that these things are having an effect on us, but they do, particularly things like colour. Colour has a huge effect on us. We are all attracted to certain colours, but not only that, but certain colours mean different things. So, for example, it's been shown that a navy blue is a very calming and trustworthy colour. A red colour is bold, is bright, can often sort of wake us up, and has often, with the right tone, a luxurious feel to it. A lot of luxury brands will use black and red. Again, we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go along, but yes, it evokes feelings and emotions with us within our subconscious. If you have really studied your target audience and you make sure that your brand identity is attractive to your target audience, they will feel like they've come to the right place. You will make a connection with them, and so researching is really, really important, because that's what you want. You want to grab the attention of the right people for you. And another reason why a brand identity is important is if you've done your research, you know who you are, and you've got a clear idea of that. When you work with other people in your team, if you're clear on who you are as a business, what you look like, how you're getting your message out there, you can convey that to your staff so that they have a good understanding of what sets you apart, what makes you different, and they can interact with clients in a similar way to you, making that experience that the customer has really consistent. What attributes make up a strong brand identity? Well, of course, as I said before, it should be visually captivating, because we all have really busy lives. We're all being bombarded with different visual stimulus, and even when we're sat resting, we often are listening to a podcast, or we're checking our Instagram or our LinkedIn or our Facebook, and we're shown adverts and things come across our screens. You want to grab the attention of your audience and captivate them. So it should be captivating, and it should be giving out the right message. Also, there's a big emphasis nowadays on being authentic, and that is very true. People want to put their money where they feel where they feel comfortable. We all work hard. We all, as consumers, want to be careful with our money, and therefore working with businesses that are genuine and show up in an authentic way, we're going to feel a bit happier about putting our money with businesses who are straightforward. So that there's a big emphasis on that nowadays. And also it should be consistent across all boards. So every single touch point that your customer has with you, from your website through to your stationery, through to the phone calls that they have with you, and what you're saying, what your team is saying, and even your invoices, there should be consistency across the board with the fonts, the colours, the imagery, and the message. Very, very important. So, where do you start? Let's say you're a brand new business and you're thinking of setting up, and you know all of this stuff, that it's really important to have a strong brand identity, but where on earth do you start? Well, it all starts with clarity, really, and that's being clear on who you are, what sets you apart from your competitors, etc., etc. So I always ask, when I start a brand identity, I have a really good discussion with my client, and I ask them the following questions, which for anyone starting up a business or even doing a rebrand, these are the key things to ask yourself. So what exactly are my values as a business, i.e., do I want to come across as professional? Am I trustworthy? Do I want to be known as being trustworthy, which you should? And is it that I have a commitment to sustainability, etc., etc.? What are my values? Write them down. Be clear about those. What inspires me? What is it that makes you passionate about starting up this business? You need to think quite clearly about what inspires you and what makes you get up in the morning and think, yes, this is it, this is what I want to do. What makes you different? So what sets you apart, really, from the others? What is it that you're offering that your competitors are not offering? What's your USP? Be clear on that. Write that down. Don't be afraid also to look at your competitors. I won't actually call them competitors. I'll call them fellow. No, what's the word I'm looking for? Competitors. I call them fellow businesses. We're all in this together, aren't we? And we're all trying to make a living from it. So it's a case of just figuring out what it is that makes you different. And sometimes by looking at other people, you can figure out what it is that sets you apart from them. What's your message? So what is it you're trying to say to people? And who ate my target audience? I was meant to say who are my target audience? Sorry about that. We're going to figure that out next. You need to think like your ideal customer, figuring out who your target audience are. You'll often find 9 times out of 10 that your target audience will be similar to you and have similar values and beliefs, which is why they'll be attracted to you. So you need to think about their age range, where they shop, where they go, what issues, interests captivate them. Are they going to be local? Are they national or international? Because that has a big impact on where you market yourself. What social media platforms they use. There is no point in, for your future marketing, putting yourself on social media platforms that that your audience are not going to be looking at. It's a complete waste of time. So do your research on who those on where they're looking and how often they're looking, and then that can help you figure out where you're going to point your marketing. Now let's have a little look and think about fonts with our logos. Here is an example. On the left hand side we have the Chanel logo. On the right hand side I've used a font that's just ever so slightly different. It's rounder. Now, without us knowing, subconsciously, our brains automatically recognize the correct Chanel. We look at the other side, even though it's very, very similar, the font is slightly different, and our brains immediately will tell us that. There's quite a difference between the two, and they give us different messages. The straighter lines on the left mean that it's more of a modern fashion font. On the right hand side, it's more rounded, it's a bit more friendly. And the reason I start off with that is because I just want to explain a little bit about the psychology of fonts. We make subconscious decisions about fonts without us even knowing it. There are various different types of fonts. There's the serif font, which is quite traditional and often used for more traditional companies that have heritage. Those little tiny details on the ends of the letters there. You go back to when printing first came about in the 14th, 15th century. They would use letters of a serif nature. So that still plays in our mind as being something of heritage and old. With the sans serif, that has come about in more modern times, where it's very clean, it's very contemporary. So if you were a clean and contemporary kind of business, then you would generally use a font that is more modern like that. Display is great fun. If you're a fun company, say you are selling children's toys, then you would want to use something more like a display font. And a script one there is often used by, let's say, wedding photographers. It's quite whimsical, it's friendly, and it flows as it goes along. So choosing the right font for your business type is pretty important. Again, going back to the Chanel one, you can see here on the Waitrose and Partners, on the left-hand side, because Waitrose is traditional but offers a modern contemporary approach to things, that's their font that they use. If we change it to a more rounded font, it doesn't fit with their values. It doesn't fit with the message that they're trying to give. I'm just trying to give you an example there. I talked a little bit about colours earlier. I just want to give you an example here of what I mean by the different colours and what they can mean to us. So here at the top, we've got some colours up here which are soft, muted. Think of Farrow and Ball, think of stately homes and the colours that they used to use there. They're quite natural colours, they're muted, and so if you have a company that has those values, you'd probably want to go for colours like that. We move down to the bolder, brighter, more modern colours there with our almost neon colours. They represent all of those things. So if you were initially, if you were to use that, for example, bright green in a stately home, it probably wouldn't work. So we've got those contemporary colours there to represent that more modern feel. Then we go down to the third set of colours there, which represent luxury. We go back to Chanel. There's an awful lot of black, bold colours used there, and we've got our golds. Red is often used as a luxurious colour, so I've put that one in. The more feminine, soft colours at the bottom. I don't know if you've noticed as well, but I've also put different fonts to represent those different styles. You can see there the serif at the top, the sans serif with the bold, bright, modern, contemporary feel. A display with the strong, luxurious depth, and the more whimsical handwritten font there at the bottom for the feminine sort of touch. So bringing those things together, thinking about your fonts, your colours, putting your brand identity together, these things need to be considered and thought about, because they're going to be the visual representation of your business. And there are some things that I feel, to sum up, are very important. Ensuring that you're offering your clients and your customers experiences from start to finish that are positive and memorable always, is that to grab the attention of your clients and your customers, and you want to think carefully about who your target audience are. Be mindful of your fonts and colours as they give us emotional responses. And I do recommend that you can do all of these things yourself, but I also do recommend that you think about hiring a brand designer to put your brand identity together. It's a journey, and a well thought out one will give you a good foundation, a good standing, and will also help you really understand what your business is all about. And you should love it as well. You should really, really love your brand identity. So if you've had it done professionally, and they've done it well, and there are so many brand designers out there with different styles, I would recommend you find the right designer that's going to create the right style for you. Same with a photographer. Find the right photographer that's right for you. They have totally different styles. So if you want very light and airy feels to your brand identity, choose a photographer that's going to do that. And this also with your things like your website. I would recommend that you get your website done, because your website, in actual fact, as I said earlier, is your shop window. It works for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it should be on point with really good navigation, really strong keywords so that you optimize and get it high up on Google, as high up as you can. So using specialists for that, I would say, is hugely important. Go that extra mile with your stationery. Make sure that you get it printed correctly, you get it printed well, use a really good high-class printer, and make it an experience. Added to that, get out there on social media, get your stories out there, connect with your audience, and go that extra mile always with everything that you're doing. Keep a brand board. I'm not sure if I've got one on the next one. No, I haven't. Keep a brand board, which is like this here, so that you are clear. You can always go back to it once you've figured it all out. Keep it there. Go back to it every time you do anything. Make sure that you are keeping on brand and that you are conveying it consistently across everything that you do. I could go on and talk more about other things, but I think for now, hopefully that gives you a good understanding of why it's important, what you have to do, and things to do to make it a great experience for your audience. Does anyone have any questions that they might want to ask?
Thank you, Cathy. Let's have a look. Yep, I've got one here. Sorry, it's coming in the chat, so I missed it. But thank you, Anthony. So Anthony asks, what does it mean to be authentic as a brand in practical terms? Do you have any examples?
So being authentic is just about being open, really, to letting people in to your business, being honest with them, and not trying to be something that you're not. We all want to aspire, so it's good to aspire, but I think honesty is the best policy in terms of if you have strong feelings about sustainability and that's part of your value, then make sure that you're doing that all the time. Don't just talk about it, make sure that you're showing it. That's being authentic. So using recycled card throughout, making sure that you are recycling within your business. Those sorts of things. Animal welfare and animal cruelty. If you have a shampoo business, then making sure your products are absolutely not tested on animals is being authentic. Does that make sense? Hopefully that does.
Let us know if you have any more questions, Anthony. So I've got a few more here. Are you affordable to a small startup business?
Well, that's a good question. So I certainly try to be. I'm hugely passionate about small business and independent business. The job I do is, and I'm authentic in saying that I do a very thorough job and a very bespoke job, in that I listen and I get to know your business really, really well. So I feel, I mean, I'm certainly not the most expensive. I'm not the cheapest. I think I am good value for money for setting you up and giving you a long-term brand identity that will serve you well for the future.
Great, thank you. And then we have another one come in. How much should I look to spend on my branding on average if I've only just started my business and don't have much revenue yet?
And that's really tough. So I completely sympathise, which is why I get an awful lot of rebrands, because I think people don't often understand the value of a really good brand identity at the beginning, but they do within a couple of years of being in business. So I would say do your research really well. As I said, there are loads of brand designers out there. Choose the one that fits with you, and I would say that you probably want to be spending in the region of something between, it's probably going to be between 600 and some people go up to sort of £2,000. It depends on the type of business you are and what you're looking for, I guess. But that will be the kind of the width that you're looking at in terms of the price. Don't go too low, because I believe there is a strong emphasis on making sure your brand identity is right. And if someone's not charging a great deal, sometimes that means that you're not going to get the best service. So it's better to put a little bit more money into it in order to achieve a stronger brand identity from the start. Hope that makes sense.
I think so. Okay, what about feedback? What is the best way to get constructive feedback about my branding? And who should I ask for feedback?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I think ultimately it has to be your audience, really. If you're having your brand identity done, for example, with my clients, sometimes they, as we go along, like to ask family and friends. I always think that you shouldn't ask too many people for feedback, because you'll get so many different answers. Ask for feedback from people who either are going to buy your products, so are the right target audience for you, or people that you know really, really well and know your business really well. Asking people who are not involved in your business or aren't the right target audience are never going to give you the right kind of feedback for your business.
Thank you. And we've got another one in from Joshua, who asks, in regards to raising brand awareness through online publications, as a startup fashion brand, which publications / nature of Chanel would be the best to choose?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think that's on quite an individual basis, because it depends on exactly what the product is. So I would say, obviously, you've got some really big publications out there which have been going for years, like your Vogue, and you've also got more modern ones like Porter, who have come about. They have similar target audiences, but also slightly different. So I would say, Joshua, get in touch and we can have a chat, because that very much depends on the product, whether, you know, and where you want to put yourself, and whether you're a national company or an international company. There's all those questions to ask in order to hone in on the right one.
And another question here. Hi, Cathy. Do you build websites for travel companies? And what would you say a great travel website should look like?
Oh, that's a really good question. So yes, I do. I only build websites for clients that I've done the brand identity for. It's all about, well, again, it depends on who you are as a travel company. If you are about luxurious destinations, then I would very much make the website all about imagery. The imagery will be vitally important, because you're trying to captivate people with the destination, the ultimate destination. So imagery will be vital. And if it's luxury destinations, people won't be necessarily thinking so much about the price. Whereas if they are more package holidays that you're offering, then I would say a big emphasis from the homepage has to be value for money. So it has to be about the words that you use, has to be about the prices that you're showing, and the tone of voice that you're putting across.
Brilliant, thank you. Got time for just a few more. So we're going to go in anonymous one. How do I connect with good branding experts? Where should I look online to find them?
Really good question. So I always think that recommendations are a really good place to start. So contacting any other people in business that you know who have used any professional, really, asking for recommendations from people that they know and they trust is the first place to start. If you don't know anyone who can offer any recommendations, then of course you have to go online. So again, I go back to that authentic word. I think you can genuinely get from someone whether they're authentic and whether they're trustworthy. So going through, looking at their website, doing your research, looking at any reviews, and also looking, if they're a brand consultant, they should have great brand strategy, they should have great branding themselves. So that's something to look out for, I would say. So recommendations, and then going online and having a look for yourself.
Perfect. Have a look, we've got a few more. We've got one from Barbara. Do you think a designer's opinion about my business is important for a successful business?
Yes, I do. If you've got the right designer who's going to listen to you about your business, what you want, what your business is all about, and then be able to interpret that for you. Because as I've just proved with this webinar, it's not what goes into the look of a brand identity is a great deal of research that goes before it, and so it should have depth, and it should be captivating to the right audience. So yes, having a consultation with a brand designer and discussing all of those things to then look at your logo and your brand identity and say, well, does that fit, is very much a worthwhile thing to do.
Great, thank you. And just being conscious of time, I'm going to take one more question. As a branding consultant, are you, one, the one creating content as well? Two, you help them to find people, or I guess you help brand to find people? Or three, you give them guidance on the type of content that they should go for?
I give guidance on the type of content that they should be going for based on the message they want to give out. And I give guidance on their brand style, and I give guidance on their brand identity as a whole, and where to place their brand. With regards to brand content, i.e. the slightly more marketing aspect of things, so the wording you would use for your advertising, for individual campaigns, that's not something that I do, but I do all of the rest. I hope that makes sense.
I think so. And I've had quite a few comments come in, people with different types of business who would like to reach out to you for some work. So I put in the chat your contact details and a link to your website where you can find out more about what Cathy does and her services. And I'm sure that she would be more than happy to hear from any of you today.
Absolutely.
What's the way to get in contact with you, Cathy?
Yeah. So best way to get in contact with me is to email me, Cathy with a C at thebespokebranddesigner.com. You can do that through my website. So if you go to my website, there's on the contact page, there's the box there that you can email me through. Yeah, that's the best way to contact me, and then I will absolutely get back to you, and we can either have a phone call or a Zoom chat or whatever, but do get in touch.
Brilliant. Well, I'm just going to wrap up the session. Thank you so much, Cathy, for an insightful session with us today, and I'm sure that we can take away lots of tips to put into your existing business or a new idea that you might be working on. For more information on enterprise support, you can follow us on social media and check us out online. We have at the moment dedicated support and information throughout COVID-19. So that's at brooks.ac.uk/enterprise/COVID-19. And I hope to see you all tuned in next week for our webinar on Wednesdays, where we'll be joined by Jessica Huey, author of best-selling book Purpose, who will be sharing her expertise with us. We are working hard to make all of our webinars on demand. This was recorded today on our YouTube channel, and I will send out information about that afterwards. Otherwise, that's all from me. Have a lovely day, everyone, and goodbye.
Thank you so much, everyone.